Yes, this is actually part of the soundtrack. Modern Disney, everybody! I've made it no secret at this point that I thoroughly despise the Disney live-action remakes with the burning flame of 100 solar flares, and with Disney showing no signs of stopping with the production of these horrible movies, we can just expect them to lose more dignity in the coming years. I may have said before that I couldn't bring myself to care anymore because there's only so many times you can say these remakes are inferior to the animated version for obvious reasons, but I'm sitting here all alone, going through some post-vacation blues, pretty much by myself, so I ain't got nothing better to do, and this time we have The Little Mermaid on the chopping block. I don't even know why Disney felt the need to remake this one. It's not like they weren't still making a shitload of money off the animated one's likeness. And yeah, the movie is a bit over 30 years old, but it's still being widely viewed by a large variety of audiences. What is there even to remake about this one? The original didn't have any glaring issues or plot holes that needed fixing, so they're just going down the road of doing the same story but with less creative visual direction. We all know the plot by now. Ariel is a mermaid with an interest in the surface world but isn't allowed to explore it due to her overbearing father. Eventually she makes a deal with the sea witch Ursula to become human, and must get her love interest Prince Eric to kiss her in 3 days before she turns back into a mermaid. The remake follows pretty much the same plot, with some really infuriating changes, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. First, the visuals are so ugly and dull. The animated version took the time to make underwater look colorful and appealing to watch, which helps you feel more immersed in the film's atmosphere. In the remake, everything looks worn out and devoid and lacking in variety. All of the underwater scenes are lacking in vibrant color that made the original atmospheric and striking. There's no unique personality or stylization to any of the visuals displayed during these scenes. It's not even filmed impressively. The composition of each shot is uninventive and sterile, removed of any real attempt to make the movie seem whimsical in spite of its fantasy setting. And knowing this takes up at least half of the movie is really discouraging. Everything looks way too dark. A lot of it is concealed in heavy shadows with not enough proper lighting to balance it out, making it difficult to even see stuff half the time. I guess it gets more colorful during scenes on the surface, but even then they're not as striking, and the CGI is bad. Like, really bad. You'd think with a movie that has the billions upon billions of dollars behind it that Disney has, there would be at least some effort to make the special effects convincing, or at least appealing to the eye. This is some of the worst CGI I've seen in a Disney live-action remake. Everything from the animation on the animals to the more computer-generated visual effects looks so fake and uncanny, with no imagination behind any of it. And it's not like Disney is incapable of good CGI. This is the same company that gave us Davy Jones from Dead Man's Chest in 2006. There is no excuse for these special effects to be worse than something that came out roughly 17 years ago. And then there's the acting, which, big shock, is terrible. Everything about the line deliveries and facial body language is downright emotionless and tired. Like they're completely bored and not at all interested in being part of this production. The most obvious example being Halle Bailey as Ariel. She's just not a good actor. Yes, she's a good singer, I won't deny that, but she's not a good actor. She never puts the right amount of passion into any of her dialogue, coming across as tone-deaf and disenchanted. I get that they wanted to cast a good singer for the role because the singing was a big part of the character's appeal, but that's the only thing they seem to be thinking about because in this movie, every other aspect of Ariel's personality is poorly represented in this performance. The Ariel who was really upbeat and hyperactive in her fascination with exploring human culture and society is now just this generic mermaid with a monotone characterization. Like, if you were to watch these two back to back, you would notice so many differences in their mood, the way they talk, how they use body language to express how they're feeling, facial expressions, just so many things that Halle Bailey doesn't have a good grasp of. There's also Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, who is just so weak compared to Pat Carroll. She uses this really weird voice and inflection that doesn't suit the character she's acting out, and her singing is just cringe-inducing. Like, half the time she's not even singing, she's just saying the lyrics without any melody to her tone. The voice she uses is more weird and whispery than nasty and sinister, making her less intimidating than she's supposed to be. Even Jonah Hauer-King as Eric looks and sounds so dull and rigid, and this can be applied to pretty much everyone else. The actors and voice actors they got for the rest of the cast are so watered down and weak with dull expression and delivery. All of them are lacking the rawness of the original cast, which results in some of the story's more iconic scenes coming across as really phoned in. Remember that argument between Ariel and Triton before he destroys the grotto? Remember the vigorous and dominating voice acting that made the emotion of that scene stick? Well, in this movie they're just kind of saying the lines with some notable changes to the dialogue, which I guess was done to make it slightly different from the original when it's really not doing anything to change the course of the scene. The movie is filled with a lot of scenes like this, where now and then they may make some kind of changes to the story or how certain scenes play out, but none of them are significant enough to really matter. And the ones that do matter are some of the more insulting changes to the source material, like changes they made to the lyrics of several songs. Oh, we had to take out the body language part of Poor Unfortunate Souls because it objectifies women, when the entire point of that portion of the song is Ursula gaslighting Ariel into giving up her voice. Oh, and don't forget the changes they made to Kiss the Girl, because apparently, these retards thought that the song was about Eric being told to treat Ariel like an object. Ariel was the one making moves on him, and Eric was resisting the urge because he was saving himself for the girl who saved him during the storm. He was actively ignoring any desire to kiss her and only started warming up to her when he took the time to communicate with her and learn about her name. You know, stuff you do when you actually want to establish a relationship with someone. And did they literally forget the fact that Ariel needs Eric to kiss him, otherwise she's going to become a slave to the Sea Witch? Do you not understand how insulting this is to Howard Ashman? Especially considering he can no longer defend himself because he's, you know, dead? You'd think that Rob Marshall, that fucking quack, would have done some double checking of the source material. Nope, he and the other people working on this remake just pass it off as sexism. Hey, you wanna know what's actually sexist? That bullshit where you have Ariel killing Ursula instead of Eric. Yeah, remember those rumors that were going around about how they gave Ariel the killing blow instead of Eric? Well, I sadly had to confirm those rumors are true. The reason Ursula was attacking Ariel in the final battle was because she killed her pets. She was blinded by revenge. This gives Eric the chance to strike her while she's distracted. Now it doesn't make sense narrative-wise. If Ariel is still the one who ends up killing Flotsam and Jetsam, why is she focusing on Eric? Why make this change if it makes the scene make less sense? Oh, wait, let me guess. Is it because this is yet another situation where you stupidly viewed the animated counterpart of the female lead to be a generic damsel or a love interest to the male lead, and you tried to make them more complex by just making them act more badass and independent from the male characters?
You have the boy's magic.
No, this magic belongs to no boy.
Yeah, like I said, that is the real sexism going on around here. Seriously, how many times are you going to do this whenever you make a shitty live-action remake? Did you really just view the original Ariel as nothing but a damsel in distress? Did you fucknuts actually see the original movie? In the original, she rescues Flounder from a shark. She rescues Eric from a fiery shipwreck. She defies the King of the Sea. And at one point during the climax, she saves Eric from being zapped by Ursula. It doesn't even make sense plot-wise because Eric saving Ariel is supposed to be what leads Triton to seeing the good in humans, which allows him to make his final decision to allow Ariel to be with him. If he doesn't see a human saving his daughter, he has no reason to trust him. It completely breaks the ending. Which is especially damning for this remake since there's a whole stupid subplot about how the humans and mer people are supposed to hate each other. And for that matter, it shouldn't even be possible for Ariel to successfully steer the ship as she does. Steering a ship takes years of experience. It's not as simple as pushing and pulling on a wheel. And considering this is taking place in a storm, she would need a lot of strength to push and pull that wheel, which is not something Ariel has. This is literally a Mary Sue moment. Good job, Disney, you turned Ariel into a Mary Sue. How is she even steering the ship? She doesn't have her human legs. It is a task that you cannot do without legs. You cannot do it. It's just not physically possible. This re-envisioning of the final battle doesn't even change the course of the story. Making Ariel the one to kill Ursula instead of Eric serves no purpose except feeding into this horrible habit of re-envisioning female Disney characters as girl bosses. And just for good measure, they even make it so that she breaks the necklace to return her voice, which was something that Scuttle was supposed to do to give him, her, a purpose in the story. Taking all these female characters and rewriting them to make them look more action-oriented when it goes against their established characterization, or doesn't even add anything to their role in the story and passing it off as female empowerment, is highly dishonest. What, did Kathleen Kennedy sneak onto the set and start manipulating the film's direction a la Palpatine style? Another pointless change is how they pretty much changed Eric's backstory by making it a copy-pasted version of Ariel's. As where Ariel is interested in the surface world but isn't allowed to pursue that passion because of an overbearing dad, Eric is interested in the ocean but isn't allowed to pursue that passion because of an overbearing mom. Oh wow, that is such smart writing. Just making Eric a Rule 63 version of Ariel. Oh, by the way, I'm being sarcastic. Making Eric a clone of Ariel doesn't make him more interesting or make their relationship more complex. If anything, it makes him less interesting. Eric in the original was a fun-loving, adventurous prince. He was really imaginative and was interested in stories about merpeople. He was modest and made an effort to relate to his subjects, even dressing more like a commoner instead of someone of royalty. The remake strays away from these elements of his character and just focuses on the stupid hyperfixation on the ocean. Making his character this one-note and wooden really shows how the filmmakers don't understand how important Eric was to changing the status quo of Disney princes. Before Eric, the only princes we had were ones like from Snow White or Cinderella, where they have no characterization or role in the story except to be the protagonist's love interest. Now comes Eric, who's actually really cool and fun to be around. A Disney prince with a personality and hobbies that are actually explored throughout the film. Remember how awesome that Eric was? Remember how well written and charming he was compared to other Disney princes at the time? Yeah, well, now he's just a male version of Ariel. Buckle up. Ariel and Eric in the original were already a nice couple. They had fun chemistry between each other, and allowing Eric to communicate and grow attached to Ariel in spite of her inability to speak made it more sweet. They were a charming pair and you wanted to see them get together in the end. They didn't need this dumb parallel in which they were interested in each other's worlds. All it does is mess with the pacing as an excuse to fill up the movie's longer runtime. Remember how people criticized Beauty and the Beast and the Lion King for having extra scenes that add nothing to the story, and how they were clearly just added to justify the film's 2-hour runtime? Well, The Little Mermaid does the same thing. It adds a bunch of new content that wasn't present in the animated version, which on a surface level might seem like they're trying to add something new or unique to the story, but they never explore these things beyond a surface level. There's a new line of dialogue where Triton exclaims how Ursula was responsible for the death of Ariel's mom, but it's never alluded to beyond this very brief passing mention. They tease you with tiny sprinkles of something different and then they just leave it there to collect dust. What is the point of trying to be different from the original if you don't actually commit to the idea? They also made Scuttle really unbearable. Every scene she's in is so difficult to tolerate because her only role in the movie is to act stupid and argue with Sebastian. What is the end goal here? Are you trying to empower women while also portraying them as obnoxious at the same time? And apparently Ursula pulls some stupid shit where she adds a cheat code to the potion that causes Ariel to get amnesia every time she tries to kiss Eric. Like, what? What's the point of Kiss the Girl anymore? Why bother trying to get them to kiss if Ariel gets brainwashed each time? Also, if that's the case, why does Ursula bother disguising herself as Vanessa? She created a foolproof plan to prevent Ariel from kissing Eric. All she has to do is sit in her lair and wait. Why bother bringing yourself in Ariel's voice up to the surface and give her a chance to foil your evil plan? You stupid octopus! Not to mention cutting out Chef Lewis, whose chemistry with Sebastian was one of the best parts of the original for its comedic energy. But the most ridiculous change by far is how it's mentioned that Ariel has never been up to the surface before. She gets all of her gadgets and gizmos from Scuttle, who dives underwater because they changed her into a gannet bird. What the hell is going on here? You're saying that this version of Ariel has never been to the surface before? She's never seen the land or anything? Then why does she have a strong fascination for the human world? Holy shit! It's the very first defining aspect of Ariel's character we see in the original, and they couldn't even get that right. The whole point of her character was that she was rebellious and always going up to the surface. How do you miss the point of something this simple that hard? Did you just attract the same stupid amnesia Ariel gets whenever she tries kissing Eric in order to forget the most fundamental element of Ariel's personality? This is like if in Tarzan he asks one of the monkeys to spy on Jane for him instead of going to interact with her himself to learn about humans. I hate you. Possibly the most pretentious thing about this remake is how it blatantly tries to pass itself off as more mature than the animated version. Maybe not more adult, but it's trying to act like it's deeper and more complex when it's the lamest thing I've seen in a long time. The way in which the movie is shot feels like they're trying to make it look more dramatic and intense. But there's no strong writing in this movie, and none of the elements that made the original a beloved classic are present here. So this more dramatic and intense looking cinematography isn't being supported by anything. If anything, this just makes the remake come across as more childish. Oh, look at us, look at how much flexing we're doing, look at how much tougher and more beefy we're trying to look. Yes, that's very nice, honey, now go back to playing with your Dragon Tales plushie. And as for the songs, they really did them dirty. Not Lion King 2019 levels of butchering, but they're still so painfully inferior to the iterations of the original. Everything about these musical numbers is so desensitizing and sterile. From what I understand, it feels like they were going for a mix between the animated movie and the Broadway musical, but these two styles don't mesh properly with the direction the movie is given. The songs were one of the biggest things about what made the original so iconic. They were fascinating performances with so much variety and vibrant energy. These songs are so boring. They're so sour and dull with little memorability to them. The instruments and the vocals are both lacking in passion and enthusiasm, and the camera work during these songs is so immobilizing and not as lively. The original took the time to make the song numbers entertaining to both listen to and look at. All of these neat angles and perspectives letting you see the full scope of the environments, taking full advantage of the atmosphere that was created for these songs. The remake just has these generic camera pans and aforementioned horrible CGI to accompany them. Also in Under the Sea, Ariel joins in on the song. Why? She's supposed to be blocking out the song because of her fascination with the surface. Halfway through, she leaves it. Here, she contributes to the lyrics and dances along with everyone. Do you really have such a poor understanding of your own character, Disney? That's it, I'm wrapping it up. What else is there even to say at this point? Do I really truly need to go into any deeper detail about this? This movie is hot garbage. It sucks. I know it sucks, you know it sucks. Everyone with more than 2 brain cells knew it was going to suck the second it was announced. And the people who are fucking stupid enough to actually praise it are only obsessing over how they're really horny for Halle Bailey. I guess objectively it's one of the less offensive remakes that Disney has put out. It's not a scene-for-scene rehash and it doesn't destroy the core message of the story, and from what I've seen it at least makes an attempt to do some things different to separate itself from the original, but ultimately it's just another miserable attempt by Disney to desperately cash in on people's nostalgia. They truly have made it their new motto, if it ain't broke, break it, when it comes to remaking their classic stories for a new generation of shit-eating brain-dead retards. Anyway, I'm done. So go on Twitter and complain about how I'm mean to people with different opinions or how I'm racist because I don't like how they blackwashed Ariel to pander to idiots who think black people don't get enough special treatment in movies. Bye! Thanks for checking out my review. If you liked what you saw here and would like to support me, check out my Patreon in the description. Every little bit helps and I always appreciate those who support my work. Until next time, stay cool.